So I actually don't do any of the work. I just get all the glory. I get knighted and stuff. And these are the people who actually do all the work. And Jill is not in the picture because she took it. She's in the pink cardigan. And all the other people there, that's Jackie there who's in the orange cardigan, but on this picture he's in the very nice white top. And that's the contact addresses, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you very much. Yeah.
It's not so much a question, it's just how nice and encouraging that is for someone who's, you know, I've got a son and who's 6, and you know, you kind of think things are pretty dire, and I've never heard anything like this, so it's just given me immense hope. So just
good.
Thank you. It's brilliant.
Well, I think that's reasonable, because that's why rare diseases are getting such an attention now. Because when you actually understand what causes something, there's lots of clever ways of getting ahead of it. But even now, even with our not perfect surveillance and all the rest of it, the prognosis for people with Lynch syndrome isn't anything like as bad as the textbooks and the family histories would have you believe. You know, it's actually quite unusual. I mean, you know, I'm not saying it isn't a serious problem. We wouldn't be doing all this if it wasn't a serious issue. But yeah, there are, you know, the future looks a lot better than looking backwards.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sorry.
With the aspirin, if you take the aspirin and your study has been over 5 years or 2 years, once you start taking it, should you just take it forever?
Probably. Yeah. I don't know I mean, we don't know the answer to that. But I think my best guess is, if what we're doing mainly is inducing the programmed cell death of precancerous cells, then you're kind of going to have a wave effect. So you're killing cells today that would become cancer in 2018 or something, you know, and then next year you're killing the ones that would have become cancer in 2019. So there's a sort of rolling benefit that probably takes 5 to 10 years to completely work its way out of the system. So if you get side effects, you could stop taking the aspirin and you're still going to see benefit from that episode of treatment, as these trials show. But the logic is, I mean, the only way I can make sense of it is that you're getting a kind of wave effect, that there's always this time lag, that what you do today benefits you tomorrow. And that's why we took so long to discover it. Because whereas with heart attacks, take an aspirin today and you stop having a heart attack tomorrow. Whereas with cancer, take an aspirin today, you stop having cancer 5 years from now. And so we missed it. Yeah, because we didn't follow up on it.
So what about with our children?
Should they take aspirin?
Yeah, should they?
So in CAP 1, we gave several hundred teenagers aspirin. But actually then there was a few cases of a very rare liver condition in very young children, which caused a huge overreaction, and they stopped giving aspirin to anybody up to 16. It's kind of crazy, actually. I think that one of the reasons we started CAP 3 from the age of 18 is that logically, if you start getting cancers at 25, you want to be starting your aspirin a bit sooner than that. So, and since we're looking at the antibodies, it'd be nice to try it in the youngest people. So you're doing something as soon as they hit adulthood. It may be, down the line, you want to do it even sooner, but it's a hassle. And I think 18, looking at the incidence, we talked at our last meeting, and Tracy and I had a little argument about it, about early onset, because in fact, you know, Stephen Sutton being the most famous, there have been a number of very high profile, very young people getting cancer. In fact, I've just refereed today, 2 days ago, a paper from the Cancer Family Registry where they looked at several thousand people with Lynch syndrome or with bowel cancer but not Lynch syndrome, and looked at the early onset cases, and surprisingly there is absolutely no difference in the number of young cancers in the two groups. So it would seem that people like Stephen Sutton are really very rare. Now, having said that, they're such high profile that even if there's only 20 of them, that's a lot. But you know, that's kind of like swamped by the 60,000 people with Lynch syndrome who don't get cancer until their 30s and 40s. So we don't want to set the rules for everybody based on those very tiny rare cases, because there are side effects from all of our interventions, and you've got to balance the two together. But the answer is, I think that starting the aspirin from 18 is a very sensible starting point. And that's the same we would do for people with genetic forms of cholesterol, high cholesterol. We start their statins when they're teenagers and stop their cholesterol doing damage, you know, from the youngest ages.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we're targeting high-risk people with a routine intervention, but at a younger age.
Yes, but the low dose that you showed on that graph, that it took longer to have the effect if they started
Well, that was a very, very low dose. That was an alternate day dose. So we're giving twice as much as that. We're giving aspirin every day.
Yes, but for children.
Yeah,
But
well,
not for the long-term effect.
so the long term, yes. So I mean, the point is, if you start at 18 and you start to see the real benefits kicking in 10 years later, that's still the very beginning of the screening program. So you'd probably see benefit. But I expect to see some effect, you know, at 5 years, which is what Peter Rothwell found. But what I'm expecting is that we'll see a sort of 18 to 20% reduction in the 100 milligram group, and maybe twice that in the 600 milligram group. And if that happened, we could tell that apart. Then it's an interesting decision for everybody to take. You know, the more aspirin I take, slightly more side effects. But actually the difference between 2 tablets, 1 tablet and a quarter tablet is tiny. It really isn't a huge difference in side effects. So, because most of the side effects are about stopping your platelets sticking together, and that's what gives you the bleed risk and so on. So essentially, but the risk of ulcers does go up with more aspirin, because that causes erosions. So that's why if we could use a smaller dose, if it's a lifelong thing, we want to use the smallest possible dose that has the best effect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the rationale for using 100 milligram rather than 75?
So it's actually the same thing. These are enteric coated tablets, and Bayer make 100 milligram tablets, and so we're basically taking off-the-shelf tablets. But the biologically available dose from an enteric coated tablet is less. So in fact, people who are buying enteric coated 75 are not getting 75 milligrams. They're probably getting about 50 milligrams, and that's thought to maybe just be slightly too little. So the 100 milligram enteric coated delivers about 75 to 80 milligrams, which is what American and British trials showed work. It is a confusing point. Thanks for raising that. Yeah.
Can aspirin have any effects on Genius?
Yes. So in fact, we've got another trial we're just starting, which I'm on the advisory panel for, called Add Aspirin. And we're going to give aspirin as an adjuvant, as an extra treatment to people with cancer. Because that antiplatelet effect I told you about that stops metastatic cells from hiding could well be very important in managing aspirin. So people taking aspirin with cancer are less likely to get spread and to die than the people who are not.
And would that work with a chemo or?
Yeah. So basically that trial is going to add it to the chemo. It'll probably kick in after the chemo, so you don't get too many tablets at once. But basically it'll be managing the patients as an adjuvant treatment. And that's probably where we'll try the vaccine first as well, because that gives you the highest yield. Because once somebody's had one cancer, their statistical chance of another goes up significantly. So that's the highest yield group to look at.
So
How do you get on that trial?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably could.
How do you get on that trial, if that's something you're experiencing?
I'm not going. That's going to be driven out of the colorectal surgeons mainly. So, but that's going to be like a whole population study. I mean, the daft answer is get cancer, which is probably not a good thing to do. So, you know, better not really.
Not again.
But actually, I think they would not put anybody with Lynch syndrome into Add Aspirin because they'd want them into our study, because we're actually both funded by the same people. So,
I've got Lynch syndrome. I haven't had bowel cancer yet. I've got 3 sons. Who've all got excuse me. They've all got Lynch syndrome. One of them hasn't had bowel cancer yet. If they want to go into this trial, or they don't, I mean, if the one that hasn't had bowel cancer, or myself, want to go into this trial, or we decide we just want to start taking aspirin, should we just discuss it with the GP?
yeah, so the reason I laboured some of these points is your GP might not say yes, but...
Well, yeah, and if you discuss it with the GP, and if he agrees, how much water dose should you take?
The short answer is join Cap 3 and I'll tell you.
Well, yeah,
I don't know the answer.
Yes.
If we knew the answer to that, we wouldn't do the study. What I know is that 2 aspirins a day works.
So
what I think will be the case is that a smaller dose might be enough, but I don't know for sure. So if people are treating themselves outside the trial, basically we've got a range of opinions. I've got some colleagues who have themselves got Lynch syndrome who've decided to go with the dose we proved worked, and they're taking 2 aspirins a day. Other people are saying, well, low dose aspirin seems to work and there's other trials, so I'll go for low dose. But the thing is, of course, coming back to the point, if you take part in the trial, you're going to get aspirin. in some dose. But yeah, the answer is you're entirely, everybody can buy aspirin for themselves.
Yeah, so if your GP doesn't want to know, you could
still buy yourself. Yeah. Your GP can't stop you buying aspirin.
Oh, no.
The only trouble is if you go for the big aspirins, you can only buy 16 at a time, so you're buying, you've got lots of trips to Aldi. Whereas the little aspirins, you can take, you know, you can get them by the bucket load. Yeah.
And can I ask one more question? I take it from what you're saying, if you go in for the trial and you accept it, you don't have colonoscopies as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do?
You just get the same routine treatment.
Because you were comparing the...
I was just comparing the side effects. But basically, so you could argue you're adding these side effects together, but the point is that the risks are small for both.
Yes.
But the risks are comparable.
I see what you meant.
That's what I was trying to make. But you will get treated exactly the same as you would before.
Right.
So how do you get involved so how do you get involved in, where do you live?
Kent.
In Kent?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going tonight. So you'll come into Guy's, and Guy's haven't yet quite got signed up. We're opening Great Ormond Street.
We're going to Guy's.
Yeah, you go to Guy's. So Guy's are going to be joining. So if you let your contact a Guy's say you've been and heard this bloke from Newcastle waffle on about aspirin, please come and join the Capri study, they'll let you know as soon as they're ready to roll. It is actually legal for people to come to Newcastle. It's a long way away, but you can actually come and join in Newcastle and have a weekend out and meet some of our bouncers.
If you're interested in doing something like this, speak to Jill and the team.
Yeah.
You know, she'll be able to help you out.
Can I put you on the spot?
Mm-hmm.
You have Lynch syndrome. Would you take aspirin?
Yes.
How much?
I'd join Cap 3.
Sorry?
I'd join Cap 3.
To find that out.
If I was a gene carrier, I would join Cap 3. I would be with
They
you.
didn't accept me. I live in the wrong country. Would you take aspirin?
You live in Ireland?
Yes.
So you could ask your doctor to refer you to Newcastle. There's a flight, a very cheap Ryanair flight.
You're avoiding the question.
Well, the answer is I don't know. You've seen the evidence. You can look at the evidence, and it's a guess as to whether Lynch syndrome will be more responsive than the general population. Therefore, a little amount is okay. I think you should take some aspirin if you can.
Okay.
And I think if you get away with half a tablet or a tablet a day, that would be a kind of middle of the road thing to do.
That's what I thought you were saying.
A reasonable place to be.
Okay, thank you.
But your GP will try to talk you out of it.
Yes.
Is there any other questions from anybody today on any
Can I
subject
just
that
ask,
we've covered?
If you take a stomach protector like omeprazole, does it have a differentiation overall effect?
It gives you constipation if you take. Some people find they get constipated if they take omeprazole, but apart from that, if you tolerate it, that's fine. In fact, a lot of the GPs, in fact, I had a medical last week, and because I put myself on aspirin, even though I don't have Lynch syndrome, because actually that it works for everybody, not just for Lynch syndrome. In fact, I had to take another anti-inflammatory, so I had to stop my aspirin. I'm going to go back to it when I finish. But they offered me a PPI, and I didn't take it because I didn't need it. I don't get any side effects from anti-inflammatories. But if you get side effects, by all means, take an antacid. And omeprazole, for those of you who don't know, will actually stop your acid production. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
And on aspirin, it came out with 3 tablets. I suppose you can look at pharmacy, then I can buy these 16 from
Okay, you can buy bigger doses from aspirin from pharmacy, yeah.
Someone was asking, I can't remember the upper age limit in the Cat 3.
So we haven't got one. We did put an upper age limit of 65, and then we were accused of being ageist. So we've taken it off. I mean, the thing is that I think the upper age limit is not frail. So people who are frail and have multiple pathologies, realistically, they're more likely to run into side effects than benefits from this, because it's going to be 5 to 10 years before they see the benefits of it. But they could get the ulcers and things in the first year or two. So we would suggest, we wouldn't encourage people who are in their 70s and 80s and frail, but they can take part if they want to. And we have 1 or 2 people who join because they're enthusiastic and want to contribute. So they're entitled to, if they're 18 and over and they're a gene carrier and they're not pregnant.
What happens if you're in the trial and do get pregnant?
You stop taking the aspirin. I mean, you don't absolutely have to. We use aspirin to treat some of the complications of pregnancy. It's not dangerous particularly, but it's probably sensible not to be on what could be 600 milligrams a day during the second and third trimester. So if you get pregnant, just stop taking the aspirin until you finish breastfeeding and kick back in again.
So then, yeah, you could go back.
And then
to
we'll
the
just
trial.
record the fact that you didn't take quite as much aspirin during your period of treatment. Yeah, just do that normally. That's not a complication. Is Belinda here? Is there somebody here called Belinda? No? No, because somebody emailed and said she was coming. She couldn't come. Well, that's right. Okay.
All right.
All right, I'll stop now. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that you single-handedly unravelled my whole